Bem-vindo ao Screenplay, o podcast da integradora digital com os movers and shakers do audiovisual. Screenplay é trazido a você por Wawa Studios. Registre a sua arte. Nessa edição do Screenplay, nós temos o grande prazer de entrevistar a Tammy Lakes e o Greg Zinone. Eles são fundadores da ONG Rise Over It Collabs, que é uma ONG de empoderamento digital que constrói estúdios de gravação na África que permitem aos artistas jovens produzirem e monetizarem as suas criações. E eles também são fundadores do estúdio Trust BV. Esse estúdio cria NFTs e também celebridades sintéticas. Essa entrevista foi gravada em inglês. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Greg.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good to be here with you.
You have this wonderful project called ROI Collabs. And in your project, you basically discover talent and you teach them how to work in the modern digital economy. You also help them achieve some economic independence. What led you to create Rise Over It Collabs?
What we try to do is we've been in the gaming space and Tammy has been in the tech and education space. We came together and we really wanted to create impact, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And how to do that is to bring accessibility into both of our spaces, into spaces that they don't have the accessibility of not only gaming, but just new tech. And we do believe that the places that we go and the locations that we go, which is the underserved, underprivileged, it's that tech and that gaming and those different spaces is what's going to bring them out of that poverty, right? So we try to bring as much impact as we can. But with Rise Over Collabs, that's all we're about, right? We are about making impact throughout the communities that sometimes people forget, and we don't want to forget those communities. So we created Rise Over Collabs to bring that new tech, which again includes gaming. Gaming is a big part of us, but also the new emerging blockchain and NFT space, which it encapsulates art and music and everything that traditionally these locations and these spots just have such a beauty behind it. You know, there's so much artwork and music behind some of these areas that we're in. So why not take advantage of that and bring that accessibility to those spaces, to these locations, so they can not only create economic independence, but just be happy, right? We're about creating just happiness with some of the things that we do. So
what you see happening in many places of the world is that in the traditional economy, people needed to go and have sets of experience that were actually very difficult to get. There were barriers to entry for large portions of the population. When you look at different technologies that now enable the growth of personal brand and lead people towards economic independence, this is where we see those barriers coming down. And so that was what got us interested in working together, moving into this space to bring some of these new technologies and the idea of entrepreneurship and personal branding, streaming, gaming, working on the blockchain. Bringing these to these communities actually gives these people an opportunity to work in a space that they otherwise just didn't know about. And the other thing that it does is it actually brings diversity of thought, economic level, culture. It brings all of this diversity into each one of these spaces when we can bring vulnerable populations, people who have traditionally been underserved or wouldn't have had access to the information or the ability to get themselves started in these fields. This is what we're doing at ROI Collabs.
In what countries is ROI Collabs operating today?
right now we're working in the United States and Africa. I've been heavily in Africa for the past about four years, specifically in Ghana. But Tammy has some connections in South Africa and a few other countries throughout Africa. But I've been heavily in Ghana, and it's just been an amazing space. I went over there a few years ago just on a whim. I told someone I would help them out. So I got on a plane and went out there and helped them as much as I can, and been continuing to do that. But just seeing what I've seen in Africa, it's just a space unlike here in the United States. And not to say that we can't do it here, because we are, but in Africa, there just seems to be just such a hunger, right? A hunger to learn, a hunger to just become an entrepreneur, to take advantage of opportunities, unlike some of the places here in the United States. And it's amazing to see, right? It's really amazing to see. So if we can bring some of our new technology and relationships to places like Ghana and Accra specifically, it's just a beautiful thing, because the people there and everyone I met, just happy, just good people. and they just hunger to take those opportunities. And they're great at what they do. We went, and this is specifically on the gaming side, and there was, seriously, people walking. Some of these guys, we had a group of guys, about 15, 20 guys, and they spent all day, every day when I was there to just game and just learn. And some of them walked for 3-4 hours a day just to get there. And it's just an amazing thing to see. So again, the hunger is just there, and it's just ripe. And we want to bring all the relationships that we can to people like that do have that hunger, that are ready to take the learnings that we can bring and the relationships that we can bring to them. So Africa, to me, has become a special part of my heart. And I'm glad to see when I met Tammy, we actually met at a Nelson Mandela event. So we had that Africa tie right off the very beginning. And so we are bringing as much as we can to Africa, but we want to expand. We definitely want to get down to South America and Brazil specifically. I know we had a few conversations about bringing what we do to the favelas, which I think will be absolutely amazing. But yeah, we're right now in the United States, Africa, but we are talking to a few other organizations, Mercy Corps, one of them, that potentially will bring all over the world. But if not with a bigger organization like that, we're going to do it on our own. And that's going to be throughout Africa, United States, down in Brazil, hopefully as soon as we can, and all over, because we do think that we have what it takes to kind of bring that new tech to these populations to really take advantage of it, and in a fun way, right? We're not some big corporate structure. We are just people trying to do a good thing. And granted, we do have really, really good relationships with some people that can help propel things. So we want to bring that on the individual side, but we're not coming from like a corporate standpoint. And I think that definitely helps with some of the populations that we go to, that they do realize that it's just Tammy and Greg coming there, right? It's not this big company and they're going to take advantage of what they have there. It's just Tammy and Greg just coming and just trying to do a good thing. So yeah, we're all over the place, and hopefully we can expand all over the world. But right now, focus the United States, Africa, and soon to be Brazil.
How do you obtain funding in order to be able to build a media production studio in Africa?
Right now, it's us on the individual basis, right? When it comes to us, we want to make things happen. We see a lane that we can get in, and regardless of if we bring corporate sponsors in, government help, wherever the money's going to come in, that money hasn't come in yet, but that doesn't mean that we're going to wait for it, right? I went to Africa on a whim, not to get too deep into it, but I saw my rent, and I took my rent and I got on a flight and went there. Instead of paying rent, I was going to get there. We can figure things out. That's one thing that we learned over the years, is that we'll figure out the money portion of it. But we don't feel that figuring that out right from the very beginning is what should hold us back from actually starting it. So right now it's all personal, but listen, we have something really good. And with the relationships that we have, we definitely wanted to start it no matter what. And then the money will come in. We are definitely looking at a hybrid. There are some government funds out there, and we'll definitely reach out to them. And corporations, they're going to love what we do. We're very, very fortunate enough, and I was very fortunate enough in the gaming space that we had a few charities that dealt with the military, for instance. And yeah, we started it just like we're starting now, just on the individual personal basis. And then, yeah, corporations just took notice, right? And then the money started coming in a big way. So we know that's going to happen here. But again, we're not ones that are going to wait for those dollars to come in from the corporations or the government. We're going to do it. And then we have absolutely no doubt that the dollars are going to come in from the corporate side, because they do see not only the potential in building the community, but sponsorship, right? They definitely see that their product is going to get out there in a totally different way through us. So those dollars are going to come in, but we're also hoping, of course, from the governments as well. But if it doesn't come in from the governments, we'll rely on the corporate funding. And if it doesn't come in from the corporate funding, we're going to make it happen.
Who are your current technology partners? Do you have partnerships with microphone manufacturers, with recording equipment, video equipment?
For our existing partners, we have a large grant from Dell Technologies as a strategic grant partner. And then we also are actually interested in getting connected with the audio industry. Would be really interesting to connect with. So what we imagine we would be able to do is to have them donate some equipment, potentially even donate dollars, and we would be able to set up a couple studios in Brazil to work with the populations there to do exactly the work that we've been doing in the US and in Africa.
We are looking to obviously bring this technology, especially in the music industry. But one thing I think companies need to know, which I think they would find out afterwards, it's not just donated product, right? Obviously, the donated product is one thing, but what they're going to get out of it is not just donating something, but they're going to get out. These musicians that are going to come out of our programs are going to be incredible, right? They're going to be worldwide. They're going to be known. And why not do that through their product right from the very beginning? So it is something that, yeah, of course, it would be a partnership, a sponsorship at first. But man, what a commercial that they're going to, say, for instance, the favelas, and they're giving donated product. But what's coming out of it is these unbelievable, globally known music artists that started by using their product. So it's not just a donated product that you're just throwing this donated product out to a population that's not going to use it. This population, we're going to make sure of it through our training and through our bringing our celebrities and music artists and all that. We're going to make sure that these artists not only use that product to just start out and learn, but use that product to grow internationally, which I think is going to be incredible.
Brazil wastes hundreds of gifted young kids per year due to a lack of family resources. And these are kids that when they grow up, they would make a monster impact in society. They would be scientists and financiers, Have you identified something similar in the countries where you operate?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually see this in countries across the world. So this is not a problem that's specific to Brazil. We certainly see it in the US here, especially in many of our largest cities, but even in the rural areas. It's something that you see evidence of in actually every country that I've ever been to. So that's dozens of countries. And it is the same types of problems. So if the families don't have resources to connect their kids into a system in which they either can learn or that they feel safe going to a place where they can learn. That's a common theme, unfortunately. It's one of the beautiful things, I think, though, of our digital age that we've entered into, because we've opened up the opportunity for kids everywhere in the world, as long as they have access to the internet and a device that can connect them to it. They really have the world at their fingertips. So that is one of the things that I feel passionate about, is actually making sure that populations have access to some type of learning. Because once you arm these kids with the information that they need and connection to even the most minimal of resources, they actually take it from there and run with it. It's one of the things. I've been with Singularity University. I was an executive with them, and I was in Brazil and Peru. And in both of those countries specifically, there were groups of kids that came to our events and that we went out into the community to work with. And those kids actually, in both of those places, asked for my WhatsApp number. They connected, and I'm still connected with these kids, and they ask for if I can connect them with schools in the US or with programs in which they can get access outside of their own community. So I think that kids that are smart and hungry, they will own the world. They just have to get a little bit of access.
I think these kids definitely relate to certain people, right? They see companies coming in, but they didn't ask anybody. They asked you, right? So they felt a comfort level to where they can go to Tammy, what's your WhatsApp? Can you help me out? So I think a company coming in or a big corporation coming in and building what we were going to build is not the same as us just going in there and building it, right? It's that relationships. I think there's something really powerful to these kids knowing that there's two people coming in, and they're coming in for a reason, right? They're not coming in to sell a product. They're not coming in to make a ton of money on them. They're coming in because they care. And I think that love is something that is a powerful tool that we're so happy to bring, that these kids definitely feel, right? We've seen it here in the United States where we had a group of young adults. They came in. They just didn't understand why we're bringing it to them and why they get the access to it. But why shouldn't they get the access to it? Why shouldn't we bring it to them as opposed to someone else? So I think just that feeling of being loved and being cared for, I think is a big deal. And I think that the intentions are a big deal for people that come in and do that sort of things. If the intentions, they don't feel the intentions are right, they're not going to learn as much. They're not going to be as proactive. So I think us coming in there and them knowing that we're coming in there for the right reasons, that we just want to see them grow, that we just want to see them, just take advantage of all their natural talent, I think is a big deal, and I think a much bigger deal. And that's exactly why they came to you, Tammy, as opposed to coming up to another executive in Singularity. They came to you, asked for your WhatsApp, and you actually gave it. I think that's a big deal because there's a lot of executives that would say, well, just go to our contact us page, right? And they would get lost in the shuffle. So just having that personal relationship, I think, is a big deal, and one that we actually pride ourselves on to make sure that we bring.
That is one thing that I have to say that Greg just touched on. When we set up these studios and bring the kids into them that haven't had access to either the equipment or to the learning or to the connections to celebrities that we bring, it is like the world opens up for them. You can actually see it on their faces. So it's pretty exciting.
How can we assist you in bringing ROI collabs to Brazil?
We know that we can bring a lot to any location throughout the world, but we definitely feel that it has to come from within the community. So we can bring our resources, we can bring our celebrities and music artists and equipment, and we can build everything, and we can bring the training, but we definitely believe that it has to come from within the community too. So the relationships right there in Brazil, us coming from the United States, it's a big deal to make that true collaboration. So it's a partnership not only between us, but between the people in Brazil. So they know that it's not just an outsider coming in and taking over and trying to bring some training, but it's coming from within, right? So it's those relationships that we need help with, right? Tammy has great relationships in Brazil and she can bring those, but it really is a matter of just bringing as many relationships that we have on the ground in Brazil, just like we're doing with Africa, right? We have our Africa relationships and they're on the ground, right? So I think we can help them make things happen in a much bigger way than they can do on their own. And that's what we're doing. So same thing with Brazil. We would love to collaborate as much as we can with not only you guys, but maybe some other organizations on the ground in Brazil and just make things happen that way. So it's really just those on the ground collaborations that we need, and the relationships with some local companies and corporations that can potentially help.
And in addition to the localized partners, I would add that as with most important projects, funding is necessary. So any connections into potential funders would be much appreciated because that can accelerate the work and get the studios set up to work for the community even quicker.
You are also involved with a company called Trust BV. This company creates NFTs, and you also develop synthetic celebrities. How are these markets evolving?
So we created Trust BV. We've been in the blockchain space for about 4 years. It's a really incredible space, and soon a lot more people are going to know about it. Right now, it's not mainstream at all, but it will become more mainstream as people just start to realize that it's not just a big buzzword, but it is something that it has potential to be in a lot of spaces, right? But the NFT space, non-fungible token, just to get a little technical here, NFT is a non-fungible token, and all that really means is it's a digital asset, right? It's a digital version of anything, whether it's the couch that I'm looking at right now, it's somebody taking a picture and making a digital asset out of that. It's just a digital version of this couch that I'm looking at. When it comes to NFTs and how they're looking at now, NFTs now it can be digital art, it could be music, it could be gaming, right? There's so many different things that NFTs can be. Again, it's just a digital version of anything. So the NFT space is incredibly hot, and what we see, the potential that we see in the space is that anyone can do it. Right? Anyone can create music. Anyone can create their artwork into digital versions of it. So we feel that that's an incredible opportunity for us to bring into spaces that we were potentially going into anyway. Brazil, one of them, that we can bring in the accessibility of that space and really, bring some economic independence just through this space alone in a really, really fun way. Right? Again, artists and art when it comes to NFTs can be anything, right? It's not just artists, but sketchers and poetry and music. So there's a lot in the space that we really feel that we can bring as much training, number one, but just help and resources to getting their collections or any artist's collections out there. It's an incredible space. Again, it's people think it's more technical than what it is, but when you are looking at NFTs, you are looking at just the digital version of anything. So it is a space that we really want to take advantage of and bring that accessibility to. And I think we're doing a good job already here. We did a few pop-ups here. We did one in Chicago a few months ago, and we're looking to do a few more. And potentially that would be our first start down there in Brazil, to where we can bring this space and the accessibility to the NFT space, which again it's a really, really hot space. Dollars aren't everything, but the amount of money that people are spending on NFTs, and it's just outstanding, right? It is an incredible space. It might be a bubble that bursts a little bit, about 6 to 9 months, but we're going to take full advantage of that. And we're potentially going to we want to bring the teachings where it's even though this bubble is going to burst, we're going to be long-term, right? So bringing utility to the NFTs, which means the artwork that we're going to create and help the artists create, it's going to have some longevity. So even if the bubble bursts, all the training that we're going to bring, we're going to be able to sustain long-term with all the artists that we create. So when it comes to digital humans, that's one of or synthetic celebrities. That's a big thing for us. We have a friend that developed a platform called Replicant. Replicant is an avatar creator, and we bring in our celebrities and actually create these synthetic celebrities where we're creating avatars of them. They look like them, and they can use them across platforms. So these avatars, once we create them that look identical to the celebrities and athletes that we have here, they can bring them cross-platform. They can talk with them on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, but we can also use them in-game. We have a fighting game that's coming out called Influencer War, which, again, the name says it all. We're using our influencers and bringing these avatars in-game, but it really is bringing these avatars to life in a fun way. Trust BV, we have our first avatar collection coming out soon, 10 created avatars that we're actually going to bring to life. So every month, we're going to showcase each one of these avatars and where they're going in their lives. Some will be NFT creators, some will be musicians, some will be podcast hosts, and we're just going to bring these avatars to life. We think avatars are one of these things that, listen, we are in a new world and in the tech world, and avatars are going to be more and more relevant and seen throughout all different platforms. And I think each one of us are going to have our own avatar in a few years. So we're at the forefront of that. But yeah, we're definitely starting out with bringing our celebrities and athletes to the avatar world by creating the avatars of them, but also with our avatar collection.
One other thing just to add for anyone who's getting familiar with the space of avatars, digital humans, when we're talking about digital humans or avatars or virtual humans or even synthetic celebrities, we're actually talking about all the same things, but on maybe a different end of the spectrum. So an avatar, a normal avatar actually could be any cartoon-based being that you might see in a game, in an educational product, anywhere online. But then once that thing starts to come to life, which is actually what Replicant does, it brings these avatars to life, and then those avatars start creating content and get attached or have the likeness of an existing celebrity, then it starts to become this synthetic celebrity. So they're actually all the same thing, just on different ends of the spectrum.
Well, I'm a great Jimi Hendrix fan. Can Trust BV develop my personal Hendrix avatar?
Definitely Trust BV could develop that avatar through the Replicant system, and then we could help that avatar come to life by making it character to play within the game. So within Influencer Wars, that seems like it would be a perfect place for your Hendrix avatar. And then we could even create NFTs where it's sections of the gameplay or some special pose, or even that avatar saying something in an audio file that gets unlocked in an NFT, and then those NFTs can be sold. So the life and the possibilities around a specific avatar or virtual human, it's almost endless.
When it comes to the customization of these avatars, I mean, this platform, Replicant, is just an amazing platform. And, for instance, if you want Hendrix, I don't think Hendrix ever wore Gucci shoes, but if you wanted Gucci shoes on Hendrix, we can put them on them, right? So there's so much that we can do in terms of customization for these avatars. Whatever you want, we can make them look exactly like Jimi Hendrix or just sound and dance. But if you want to change them up a little bit, that's the beauty behind it too, and kind of make them your own in your own light. That's what this platform can do. It's just an amazing platform. Every time we see it in front of us and just what the functionality, what exactly can be done with it.
And do you think in the near future, I would be able to play with my Hendrix avatar? Would I be able to play Fortnite or maybe Call of Duty? Do you see the possibility of these game publishers opening up?
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of the game, right? And the company behind it. I think a game like Epic, sure, the possibilities are there for sure. Making your avatar, it's something, how companies roll, right? It's all about monetization, right? If they can monetize on it, I'm sure they're going to be able to do it. It definitely takes, I think that is going to be the next generation of games where you're going to be able to have your avatar in more and more games. We're probably one of the first, I think the first company to ever have, you can actually customize your own avatar and play them in game. There's some smaller games, but this is the biggest one, I think. We're just a simple fighting game, but I think there's some, like Roblox. You take these really simple games, Roblox, you can kind of create a character, little tiny, obviously these aren't avatars, right, that look and feel like you or a Hendrix avatar, but, we're getting there, right? So these bigger companies are obviously taking notice. It will take some development on their end, but I think that's where we are going to be. A few years down the line, if we have our avatars are not only going to be able to be playable in game, but they're going to be on, whether it's TV shows, Disney Network, social media. These avatars are going to be able to go anywhere. And what I like about them is, say on social media, if there's someone that doesn't like being in front of the camera, it's easy to voice your avatar, right, and have your avatar. So it is bringing to light some of these, some people that are introverts that don't like social media, but want to get on it, but don't want to show themselves or have themselves heard. They can do it through their avatars. So the potential with avatars are limitless, and we're getting there. Right. So in a few years, I think these avatars are going to be just on a totally different level. But game companies specifically, if they can monetize on it, they will. A game like Call of Duty might be a little longer in the process just because they spend so much money on developing these skins and these characters. So I think maybe there will be a version of it to where, okay, this is the typical Call of Duty game, but then there's a patch that comes in where there's a version of the game where you can actually put your avatar. That is a possibility for sure. And I think everything's down the line. These avatars will be in anywhere and everywhere.
Imagine landing on Normandy, everybody with guitars, and the guys on the other side there with drums, and instead of killing each other, they're going to jam.
I love that. I can see that for sure.
It sounds incredible. When you start to think of the implications of these avatars really becoming the representations of humans throughout life, both throughout social media, but then also even in meetings, instead of running Zoom meetings where our faces are evident, it could be that we add in our avatar, and then the avatar is the one that speaks for us. When that starts to play out, and after we have a couple of years of that, there are some estimations that even marketing companies are expecting to need to market to a person's avatar versus to the type of person, right? Today we market to demographics and we get as close as we can through analytics of what those people are doing online. But if you start thinking of how avatars play into it, then people are less protective of what they're doing because it's their avatar. It's not actually themselves, and they can make the person be whatever it is through this virtual human. So the idea of marketing to the human's avatars actually opens up a completely separate world. And there are some estimations that that's actually going to be what the future looks like.
Tammy, you were involved with the Singularity Institute. Are we on track to transcend our bodies and minds into artificial intelligence beings? And when do you think this will fully happen?
Yes, so I was an executive with Singularity University, and I will tell you that I have nowhere near the expertise that Ray does, but I can say that I was writing an article, and this now would have been about maybe 18, 24 months ago. And I asked Ray, I said, hey, I want to put in a quote of yours to this article. Can you tell me how is your estimation for the singularity? When we reach that technical singularity, what year do you think that's actually going to happen? And given your estimates right now, and he said it will, I can tell you, he said it'll definitely happen by 2029. So he said it will happen within 10 years, and that was 2019 when I asked him for that quote. And in that moment, he said, all of the algorithms are actually already written. So now it's just training all of the systems to do the tasks by computer intelligence more accurately than we can with human intelligence. And so it's coming pretty quickly.
John von Neumann, who is the father of computer architecture, used to say that computers were amplifiers for the mind. Are computers today still amplifiers for the mind, or are computers becoming the mind?
It's an interesting topic to dive into. From my point of view, we have human minds that have created the intelligence that we have today. The computers will and are in the process of developing inference, which at that point, then they'll be able to go ahead and move forward with, whatever it is that the computer wants to do based on the algorithms that were originally intended by the humans, the faulted minds that put them together. But I think to start, I still agree with the statement. And I don't think that it's only, I guess, the way that I view it is that it probably will be a reflection of the human mind.
Do you think we run the risk of computers at some point coming to the conclusion that we're very messy, we pollute a lot, we fight a lot, we kill a lot, we're basically a nuisance, and, maybe the planet would be better without us?
Well, if we're being real with ourselves, I think we have to admit that humans are messy. We have polluted the planet. We haven't done the right thing for the long term for either the planet or for future generations. But I think one of the things that technology enables is actually the opportunity to clean up some of the messes that we've made. I believe that the future looks positive, and it is both human will and power, and that combined with technology that creates that positive outlook.
Screenplay volta em breve com quem faz acontecer na indústria do audiovisual. Aproveite para comentar e compartilhar esse podcast. Screenplay é trazido a você por Wawa Studios. Registre a sua arte.